What's up guys, TSJAwesome 628 here, back again with another F1 2020 My Team Career Mode video. This time for the second race of the second season, the Bahrain Grand Prix. First of all, we just need to renew a sponsor. We're going to go with Zanzare. I can't even remember if we did have them off the car before, but if we did, then welcome back to the car. We're then going to make an upgrade, and it's going to be for the aerodynamics, and I think we're going to do a rear downforce upgrade. That's one of the areas where we need to improve on. Interestingly, Racing Point have the apparently best downforce package on the grid, so we'll see if when we get to high downforce tracks they're suddenly much stronger than the field. I mean, I guess you could argue Australia's quite a high downforce track and they did do very well around there. But we're at the Bahrain Grand Prix for this weekend, and we're going to do podium celebration passes. It's just generally the best one if you can do it, and then we're going to do driver promotion and filming, as it's the only other one-day activity there. And, well, now it's time to get into the Bahrain Grand Prix. We're going to look at the weather forecast, which, naturally, as you'd expect in the Middle East, is completely dry. It's obviously also a night race, so it's going to be in completely dark conditions. At the end of practice, we also have enough resource points to make another upgrade. This time we're going to do it for the engine power, and hopefully upgrade the powertrain to get us up to where Mercedes are. And hopefully that will take us to be the best car on the grid. It's into Q1 now, and it should be a formality, as our car is definitely good enough to get into the next part of qualifying. Just going on into the lap, go through turn 1. This wasn't a brilliant lap. I broke way too early for turn 1, but I was still getting used to the car. I had done practice on different days, so I wasn't as gelled in the car as I could have been. We get towards the end of the lap. It really wasn't a good lap. I was not really focused in a way with some of the braking points, and we just came across the line. It was 25.1. It put us P13 at the time, but that is enough to get us through, as we only need to be in the top 16. And as you fast forward to the end of the session, I think we get pushed down to P16 exactly, but we were 7 tenths away from safety, so we were comfortably through anyway, as I already hinted at. It was our teammate Daniel Ricciardo that topped the session by a very large amount, and it was the Hasses from the Alfa Romeos from the Williams that got knocked out. And, well, our teammate is looking very strong this weekend. If he can keep topping the sessions by 5 tenths, then it's looking very good to win the race, because, as I've said, that I don't feel so strong around here so far. On to Q2 now, and hopefully we can have a slightly better session than Q1. Obviously in Australia we did have to use 2 sets of tyres, which I'm hoping is not going to have to become like a recurring event, using 2 sets of tyres in Q2, because that always gives us a disadvantage for Q3, as it does mean we have to do the first run on a used set of tyres. But as we come on to the end of the lap, go through the final corner, it was a slightly better run than in Q1. Wasn't brilliant yet, but it was 125.3. I'm not actually sure what we set in Q1. It did feel better, the run did, and well, it's just going to put us P14 though, and that does mean that on our second run in session we do need to improve, otherwise we will be knocked out in Q2. So going into turn 1 now, we went slightly wider than last time, and we actually lost a bit of time, but on the exit we gained all of that back, and we're now about half a tenth up. And fasting forward towards the end of the lap, we are 7 tenths up, and this should be good enough to put us into Q3. So hopefully, as we cross the line here, it is enough to put us through to Q3, and I believe it's P5 in Q2. So that's good signs that we do have at least some pace around this circuit, because originally I thought maybe we'd be battling at the lower end of the top 10. Sergio Perez got through in P3, but yet again, Daniel Ricciardo dominated the session. 6/10 was the gap to the next car, and he must be the clear favourite going into Q3. Interestingly, Antonio Giovinazzi in the Racing Point car got knocked out. Obviously, they're the third quickest car, and you're probably expecting both of them to get through. Lance Stroll was actually only just behind us, so he had a decent session. And it was Sainz, Verstappen, and Vettel at the lower end of the table, with Norris, like Gasly, Leclerc, Ocon, and Fiat also not making it through. On to Q3 now for our first run. Obviously, I said it on a used set of tyres, so not expecting it to be brilliant. I was finally starting to get used to the car though, and as we went through turn 1 again, braking slightly early, but that was just more because I didn't have confidence in the used set of tyres. Run slightly wide there, and as we fast forward towards the end of the lap, we're going to go through the final corner, turn in slightly too early, which hampers our exit slightly, but it is going to be a 25.2, which is actually quicker than our original lap in Q2. So once again showing that I am slowly building confidence in this car. It is quite a nice car to drive. It's obviously much quicker than the standard car that they give you at the start. But this is my quickest lap of qualifying over all 3 sessions, and hopefully it will be good enough to put us right towards the front of the grid. So braking later already into turn 1 and gaining about a 10th through there, and gaining even more time on the exit. So now we're almost a 10th and a half up, and as you see, as we fast forward towards the end of the lap, we are 9/10ths up, and as long as we get a good run through the final corner here, which we do indeed, it is going to be just over a second improvement, and that should put us somewhere near the front of the grid, and indeed it does put us P3 on the grid for tomorrow, which I will definitely take. So that is very good news for us.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Bottas, Ricciardo and Thomas. Goodbye for now then, but we're really just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
So interestingly, it was Bottas that got pole and not our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. After dominating the first 2 sessions, he looked quite good for pole, but Bottas managed to steal it from us. We take home a 2-3 with only 8 thousandths between us, so if I found a bit more time on that lap, then I maybe could have got second. Lewis Hamilton took home P4, and Lance Stroll in the Racing Point was P5. Vettel was P6, Sainz was P7, Verstappen was P8, Perez was P9, and Alexander Albon starts from P10 in tomorrow's race. So we'll see what happens there. It'll be quite interesting because the 1 stop is always quicker than the 2 stop of Bahrain.
Let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo. A strong showing from the Australian. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Thomas, Hamilton, Lance Stroll, and Vettel, Sainz, Verstappen, Perez, and Alexander Albon. Norris, Giovinazzi, Pierre Gasly, and Leclerc, Ocon, Fiat, George Russell, and Roman Grosjean, Latifi, Magnussen, De Vries, and Jack Aitken.
So back onto the strategy now, and it will be a 2-stop for us, as we do have to start on the soft tyres, and I'm probably going to do 2 sets of mediums, 11 laps each, so pitting on around lap 18 and lap 7. We're going to lower the fuel to an even amount, and then I think I'm actually going to increase it because I didn't like the original amount. I do know that Bahrain you do need quite a bit of fuel on the straights to try and hold and gain positions. Anyway, it's lights out and away we go. We get an originally bad start, but then through the second phase, we actually pull alongside Ricciardo into turn 1, and Ricciardo brakes so much later than us though, and we have to hold on to P3 here and settle in behind our teammate for this position. So we'll keep P3 at the start, and as we move on towards the end of lap 1, Bottas and Ricciardo are slowly pulling away from us, and it's Hamilton that's closest to us, just behind. A bit like in Australia where we struggled to get going, but at the end of lap 2 we are comfortably outside of the DRS range of Ricciardo, which isn't good news. But we are also outside DRS range from Lewis Hamilton. And speaking of Lewis Hamilton, on that very same lap, he just goes for a massive spin there, and one of the first AI mistakes that I've seen in this career mode. And he waits for everyone to go past the track before rejoining, so he is now plumb last in this Grand Prix, and that is not ideal for him. So we have Lance Stroll now just behind us, and he is over 2 seconds behind us, so we are almost cementing this P3 here. No one's challenging us from behind, but we're not really challenging anyone in front. So, I mean, I'll take a P3 in this race, which I originally didn't think I'd be getting, but also on this lap, currently happening, we have Ricciardo, and he's looking to take the lead here. He just looked extremely quick in the qualifying sessions, but Bottas ended up pipping him from pole, and now Ricciardo wants the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and Ricciardo's going to get the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix as he goes up the inside of Bottas, late on the brakes as per usual, and he will take the lead. And later on this lap, we have Lando Norris, who is looking to overtake Alex Albon here in the Red Bull, and well, he's much quicker than Alex in the Red Bull, and that gives him the position up into I think that's about P10 or something, maybe P11, but it's for the lower end of the points, definitely. On to lap 5 now, and we are also closing in on Bottas, so we do seem to have the pace over Mercedes generally this race, and we are gaining, as Jeff says, we've gained about 7/10 over the last 3 laps, and Albon is just going backwards in this race, and this time it's Giovinazzi's turn to have a go at him, and in an unusual overtaking spot, I would say, with most of the overtakes being done in either turn 1 or turn 4, I think it is, but it's now time for us to try and get past Bottas. We're now inside DRS range, and we have had to extend the stint though, because obviously Ricciardo is ahead of us on track, so we can't pit this lap because otherwise we'd have had to double stack. Later down the field we have Pierre Gasly here, I believe, trying to overtake Esteban Ocon in the Renault, and he is going to overtake Esteban Ocon in the Renault, and he is now gaining some positions for this race, and he'll be thinking after Hamilton's spin that there's some more points up for grab. Now we're looking on to lap 8, the top 5 is now us, Norris, Giovinazzi, Gasly and Ocon, so 5 different constructors in the top 5 as we push into the pit lane there, and it's time for us to make our pit stop here. And we did have a good in lap here, and obviously we were quite close to Bottas on the entry to his pit stop, and maybe if he's stuck in traffic we could have a go at trying to jump him. So he hasn't gone past us on our screen yet, so that means he must be either behind De Vries or Grosjean here, and we're going to rejoin ahead of both Haas cars of Grosjean and Russell, who are just ahead of Valtteri Bottas here. So we will claim P9 here and a net P2 in this race, but obviously with the 1 stoppers they are theoretically for position because we all have to make 1 more stop. So we do have to try and clear this traffic as quick as possible, and Nick De Vries is first on our list to try and overtake in a Williams car that definitely should not be challenging us here, and we're going to try and get the move done immediately here. So we're going to go round the outside of Nick De Vries. I did say it was an unusual spot to overtake in, but when you're so much quicker than the car ahead of you, you have to try and get past them as quick as possible. And this is Daniel Ricciardo, who's also trying to get past the traffic. He's got Esteban Ocon and Charles Leclerc just in front of him, and the moves he has to make aren't that hard, but he's going to try and do 2 in 1, and Leclerc also gets Ocon here, but he has taken 2 positions into 1, and he's almost already back into P1 in this race. He's only got a couple cars between him and the actual P1. As you see, Ocon does go down to P6 now after being overtaken by both of them. We're just trying to set some personal bests here, but on lap 11 we can't quite do that. And this time it's Bottas who's been stuck behind the 2 Haas cars for a while now, and he's lost an awful lot of time to us. But now he's finally going to go round the outside of one of the Haas cars here, and he's going to get DRS here, and he's going to try and have a go at the other Haas car here, and he's going to go up the inside into turn 1. He's going to claim a nice double overtake here, and then now he's just split by Nick de Vries, and then he's going to have to go and chase after us. But that gap is already 6 seconds, and we have done a very good job at trying to extend that gap. And now we're catching up to Danny Kvyat, and as we head on towards the end of the lap, he makes a slight mistake, as you saw, on the entry, and that allows us to get a much better exit than him, and we're going to use the ERS and the fuel to try and pull to the outside of him, and we are now up to P7 in this race. So now it's Esteban Ocon up next, and as we go into the first couple of corners, we're going to try and get a good run on him here, and as we go up into turn 4, we are going to send it on the brakes. We do go slightly deep as a result, and Ocon's going to get the switch back on us, and we're going to try and have to go round the outside into the mini S section. And now we are indeed up into P6 of this race. So a good double overtake from us, from Kvyat in the final corner, and then Ocon up to turn 4. And our teammate Daniel Ricciardo is also on the move, and he's got Giovinazzi just in front of him, and he now has Giovinazzi just behind him, as he's going to catch up to Lando Norris, who I believe is currently in the lead of this race. So he has almost already taken all the positions. He is on the soft tyres though, so he does need to try and bits, because he'll be on a slower set of mediums towards the end of the race. And he can't quite get Norris on this attempt, but maybe in the next lap he will have a chance at claiming his position back. And as I said, going on to the next lap, he is going to have a chance at Lando Norris. He doesn't even need the next lap, he's going to do it in the final corner before we get onto that lap. It's going to prove me wrong, but Norris immediately pulls into the pits, so it must be time for the medium tyre drivers to go into the pits. But Charles Leclerc on the hards does not pit, as he is going on a different alternate strategy. So now back on board with the other Racing Point of Lance Stroll, who is going to have a go at Carlos Sainz here. They're on different strategies to the former medium tyre runners, as they're on the 2-stop. So they need to make moves quickly, and Lance Stroll has decided he's had enough of staying behind Carlos Sainz, and he needs to get a move on if he wants to get good points in this race. On to lap 50 now, and Kvyat is in the pits, but following on the next lap, Sebastian Vettel is going to try and go around the outside of Nick de Vries and the Williams, who has been holding quite a few trains up this time. But Lando Norris and Giovinazzi, who are fresh out the pits, want to get some positions back in this race, and it is going to be Lando Norris going up the inside of Sebastian Vettel, and Sebastian Vettel could lose 2 positions here, as Giovinazzi is also going to go for a move as he tries to go round the outside into turn 4, but Vettel holds on well and keeps the position. On to the end of lap 15 now, and we're slowly closing in on Charles Leclerc, who is on the same strategy as us. So if he can continue to keep up this pace, then we could struggle to get back past him, and Leclerc could bring home a shock podium for Ferrari here. He's in a really good position to do so, depending on how quick Bottas is in his final stint. And we're just rolling through the laps now after both our teammate and Leclerc pitted. So we just need to try and build up the gap as much as possible. But on board with Charles Leclerc here, and he's going to have a go at Lando Norris into the final corner. And they do make a bit of contact, but he does get past Lando Norris. And in the background, his teammate Sebastian Vettel comes into the pits. So Leclerc has cleared the rest of the one-stoppers, so now everyone else in front of him will have to make another pit stop except for Daniel Ricciardo, our teammate. On board with Alex Albon now, who we haven't mentioned for a while after he lost a bunch of positions at the start. He's going to follow Sebastian Vettel into the pits. But as he comes into the pits, his pit crew are not ready for him, and he's just going to have to wait there. And, well, I think he has to wait there for the rest of the race, because the pit crew aren't ready for him. Now on board with Lewis Hamilton, who is following Alex Albon into the pits here. And unlike Red Bull, his pit crew allow him into the box, but yet again, they're not ready for him. And after a few seconds, Lewis Hamilton just gets bored of waiting for his pit crew to change his tyres and just decides to drive off. So he's not going to get his tyres changed, and he's probably going to have to come in again next lap to see if he can get those tyres changed. We decide to extend the stint as we think the pace is good, so we're going to go on for an extra lap other than lap 18. I was thinking maybe I could stretch it to softs, but I decided against it in the end. This time we have Lando Norris, who is trying to defend from Antonio Giovinazzi, and Giovinazzi overtakes Lando Norris to get up the order in the race. I think it could be a good battle between Racing Point and McLaren this season. They do seem to both have some decently quick cars. End of lap 19 we do come in. I think we did need to go to lap 21 if we wanted to go for the softs. We both passed both Bottas and Albon and Verstappen and Hamilton. I think they're all just chilling there in the pits because their pit crews just don't want to serve them. So this is a great opportunity for lower down teams to get loads of points in this race with no Red Bulls and no Mercedes in the running there. Maybe they just decided that the real life Bahrain Grand Prix was too easy for them teams, so they decided to give the other teams a chance. That would have made the drama so much even more interesting, like onto the last lap, Verstappen v Hamilton, and then they just both decide to go in the pits and their pit crews aren't ready for them, and then, I don't know, Norris wins the Grand Prix for McLaren, I don't know. But back to the actual My Team race now, and again we're going to go on board with Valtteri Bottas, I think this is, who basically tries to go into the pits and isn't allowed. The camera just cuts straight off him, so I think he's retired from the race now after trying to get into the pit box for the final time. And that means that, well, our competition is gone for this race. It's only TSJAwesome cars right at the front of the field. But in the middle of the field, there is still lots of competition. And Esteban Ocon is under pressure from Lance Stroll here. And not just under pressure, he has been overtaken by Lance Stroll. So, Lance Stroll, who is the first of the two stoppers other than me and Ricciardo, now that Bottas is out of the race, means that he does have quite a lot of work to do, because the one stop is clearly quicker, and he was actually a disadvantage for actually qualifying well. We used a purple sector at the end of lap 22, and we are really trying to catch up to Leclerc here, because we want a 1-2 for our team. Now we're on board with Sergio Perez here, who has Carlos Sainz just in front of him, just in front of Carlos Sainz, is his teammate Esteban Ocon. So Carlos Sainz is going to go up the inside of Ocon into turn 1, and Perez is going to look to get a good exit. Perez does have better tyre compound on the mediums compared to Ocon's hards, so I'm not sure if Renault just decided, yeah, it's best to have Perez ahead of Ocon here so he can chase after Carlos Sainz, but Perez does make a pretty simple move on Esteban Ocon, and we are now firmly in DRS range of Charles Leclerc, who set a new personal best in the race. So we are going to look to make a quick move on Leclerc, but we don't get the best exit out of turn 3, and that means we'll probably have to wait for another lap to get past Charles Leclerc. We only have 5 to go. Now on board with Lance Stroll, who is Danny Kvyat just in front of him, and well, he wants to make Danny Kvyat be behind him because he wants Racing Point to get the most points they can in this race. Giovinazzi is currently running in P4, so he does want to make sure that Racing Point gets a good point tally to cement the fact that they are the 3rd quickest car here, and maybe even challenge Mercedes after Mercedes will have a shocking result at this Grand Prix. So on to lap 24, and this time it's our turn to get past Leclerc, and just look at the speed we have down the straight compared to him. It's just incredible. That Ferrari engine must be absolutely shocking on this game, because there's no way we should have been able to gain that much time on the straight on him. But I'm not complaining, and we're up to P2, so it's a 1-2 for the team, and we're going to just pull away from Leclerc, and hopefully it stays that way. We've got not much more to do in this race, but lower down the order, fighting for just outside the points now, is Esteban Ocon and Sebastian Vettel. Ocon was in a really promising position a few laps ago, but has tumbled down the order quite quickly, losing about 4 positions now as he loses another one to Sebastian Vettel, to demote him to P12 in this Grand Prix. And Sebastian Vettel, well, not match his teammates' performance in this race, with Leclerc probably going to pick up a podium, which would be a great result for Ferrari. They don't have the quickest car, but on to the next lap, and Sergio Perez is going to look to overtake Carlos Sainz here, and I've only just realised that Carlos Sainz went onto the hard tyres on his final stint after going on the 2-stop, which must be a shocking strategy for McLaren, because you should only really have to use the hard tyres if you're on the 1-stop. Ricciardo sets another fastest lap, and he's 13 seconds ahead. He's dominated this Grand Prix. Ever since he overtook Bottas on like lap 4, he is checked out of this Grand Prix, really. And it's good to see our teammate doing well. Obviously, Jack Aitken probably got one of his better results with our first points in Season 1 at this track, so it must just be a track that my teammates always do better than me at. We do have a yellow flag here though, and Sebastian Vettel, after just overtaking Esteban Ocon, is now out of this race. So one Ferrari is going to be getting a podium and the other is not going to finish the race. They have good company though, with 2 other greats of the sport, in Hamilton and Verstappen, both also not finishing this race. So maybe they can just have some like all the world championships just in the retirement section, just like the last 11 world championships, and then Nico Rosberg just in that retirement section. But here it is again, Sebastian Vettel. His engine just goes up in smoke. Ocon says, "Yay, I'm going to finally get a position now," because Ocon had been losing positions all this race. There wasn't really much going on in our race though, or in Daniel Ricciardo's, who's just come across the line to win the race. He gained a lot of time in us in the last 3 laps. The gap's up to 16 seconds, but to be honest, I don't really care. Finishing P2 2 seconds behind him doesn't make too much of a difference to finishing P2 16 seconds behind him. So I'll just take the 1-2 for the team, and the first 1-2 for the team in this whole career mode.
Incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
So, brilliant job for the team. both up on the podium there, celebrating with each other. Leclerc's just off the screen. The cameraman doesn't want to cut him. He just wants to cut to the history being made for the TSG Racing cars.
Daniel Ricciardo is the new leader of the Drivers' Championship after today's results. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for Driver of the Day?
Charles Leclerc showed exactly how to manage yourself out on the track today. He was almost flawless out there. Incredible stuff.
Let's move on to the Constructors. The owner drivers team moved to the top of the table. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend from them as they fight their way towards the top. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
So Ricciardo wins the race and gets fastest lap by over a second. We finished in P2 with Charles Leclerc in P3, so a great result for Ferrari. I did say that there would be a good opportunity for lots of midfield teams to get lots of points this race. Giovinazzi P4 in Racing Point, Lando Norris P5 in the McLaren, Gasly P6 in the AlphaTauri, and then Lance Stroll P7 in the other Racing Point, Kvyat P8 in the other AlphaTauri, Sergio Perez P9 in the first of the Renaults, and Carlos Sainz P10 in the other McLaren to round off the points. Esteban Ocon just misses out on the points in P11, and George Russell has a good race and has to finish P12, so if theoretically none of the Williams, Alfa Romeos or Haas score, a P12 is going to be a good result to boost them up in the Constructors. Kevin Magnussen takes P13 in the Alfa Romeo, and Nicholas Latifi P14 in the other one. Then come the two Williams cars of Jack Aitken and Nick De Vries, and then Romain Grosjean in the other Haas P17, with Sebastian Vettel, who is 2 laps down, but he didn't really finish, did he? Along with both Red Bull cars and both Mercedes cars not finishing this race. So, as we move into the championship standings now, Ricciardo takes the lead of the championship, 6 points ahead of us in second, and we stay in second, but we gain a position of Valtteri Bottas, having lost one to Daniel Ricciardo, and Bottas is on 25 points. Giovinazzi's in 4th in the standings on 20 points, with Leclerc in 5th on 17 points. Lance Stroll is 6th on 16 points, just ahead of Lando Norris, who's also on 16 points in 7th. Lewis Hamilton is down in 8th on 12 points, so not what he'd have wanted, with Gasly and Kvyat on 8 and 4 points respectively in 9th and 10th. Albon in the first of the Red Bulls is on 4 points, with Perez and Sainz both on 2 points. And the rest of the drivers, Ocon and Vettel and Verstappen, are the main ones that haven't scored yet so far. Obviously, we're expecting the Alphas, Haas and Williams to not score many points this year. But Verstappen down in P19 in the championship, which I think he'll be looking to change in the next few races, as he doesn't want to be being beaten by the Alphas, Haas and Williams cars. We are miles ahead now in the Constructors, and we've got over 2 times points to Mercedes. We're on 78 points, and they're on 37. They're only a point ahead of Racing Point, who are on 36 points, so if they have a couple of strong races, could easily try and take Mercedes for second. McLaren hold on to P4 currently, on 18 points in the championship, with Ferrari just behind on 17 points. AlphaTauri are in 6th on 12 points, and Red Bull are on 4 points. Renault are then on 2 points in 8th, and Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams have not scored yet this year, so Alfa Romeo were ahead of Renault for a little bit, but it didn't last for that long. It was indeed a very exciting race. Well, I guess for now, we didn't have too much competition in this race, with the Mercedes, well, having a catastrophe race. And, well, yeah, we are getting used to off in the podium, but we expect it. And our engine, as you saw with my overtake on Leclerc, was much more powerful than his. I think the team are ecstatic with how we're performing, but they should be ecstatic with how they perform themselves. It makes me extremely happy. I just want the best for the team. Well, this is our first 1-2 for the team's history, so I hope we get many more. In the rivalry section, we do completely beat Lewis Hamilton in this part, because we actually finished the race, unlike him. And in our acclaim levels, we're still level 12. Daniel Ricciardo's level 14. And as a team, we are level 15. And in the goals, we didn't quite complete our 100 laps. And we both had damage deductions at various points in this Grand Prix. I don't know where they were from. But that is going to be the end of the episode, and I'll see you guys next time for the Vietnam Grand Prix.